two corroborating witnesses that say he was drowned in a horse trough,
Yeah.
not of his own doing, you know.
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's
And if
newsman,
you were just trying to
Logan
get to
Crawford.
investigators, they now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators.
International were abducted.
This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now we're diving deep into one of rock and roll's darkest mysteries. We're talking to a terrific author. His name is Richard Gilbride, and he has cracked the case of Brian Jones' death after 3 years of intensive investigation. Richard is a seasoned true crime writer. He has previously exposed JFK assassination secrets, and in this book, he reveals shocking medical cover-ups, eyewitness testimony, and the conspiracy that silenced the Rolling Stones founding member. This is the untold story that will change music history forever. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight, and we thank the team at Mainspring Books for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Richard, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Well, it's an honor to be here. It really is.
It's an
Thank
honor to
you.
have you on the
Yeah.
show. Brian Jones, one of the founding members of the Rolling Stones. He was the key figure, actually recruiting people like Mick Jagger and Keith Richards to be in
Well,
the
he put
band
an ad in the
originally.
Jazz News newspaper way back in 1962 to recruit members of the band. I believe the pianist Ian Stewart was the first to respond. And then around a month later, I think Mick and Keith joined up from they had a band Little Boy Blue and the Blue Boys. And then Bill joined a few months after them, and I think Charlie was the very last around. I think it was January 1963 that he finally rounded up the quintet. So,
Brian Jones was a driving force. He was instrumental, so to speak, to the band, but other members of the band had problems with him. And at one point, he's forced out. I believe was it 1969?
he was fired, quote unquote, from the band in uh, June 8th, 1969. And the three of them, Mick, Keith, and Charlie, went over to his Cotchford estate by surprise and just announced that he was, they were through with him because he just wasn't really cooperating in the rehearsals, and he wasn't contributing to the band. He seemed to have other things, other issues on going on, especially his drug overuse, and uh, they just decided that they were ready to go on without him. They had a big American tour starting later that year, and he unfortunately had a visa restrictions because he had pled guilty by mistake to a drug charge that previous September, and so he wasn't really eligible for a work visa, and he couldn't tour with them. So that was a big reason that they wanted to, replace him. So.
3 weeks later, he's dead. Found in his swimming pool in England. His girlfriend is there, a friend is there, Frank Thorogood, and the report is he basically drowned by accident after using drugs and alcohol. But your investigation and the people's assumptions have often thought this doesn't quite appear to be right.
Well, yeah, it was a cover story, and it's been slowly but surely e- unraveling and exposed over the subsequent decades. I, permit me to read a excerpt from what I built around is a core truth of what really happened that evening. And it was uh, his girlfriend had called her club manager. She used to dance at a London club called the Speakeasy. And she called him, the manager of that club, later that evening, and she told him what had happened. It was she she had gone upstairs and suddenly she came down. Frank Thorogood and the nurse was standing by the pool. This is Nurse Janet Lawson, who was a girlfriend of the minder Tom Keylock, who was also living at the estate. So Frank and the nurse were standing by the pool. Brian was there, and they were doing nothing at all. Anna Wolin dove in and tried to fish him out. Brian was floating in the water under the pool, and they wouldn't help her at all. They were just standing by the pool watching. So this is what you can build the rest of the case around because she had been accused of just being too uh, drugged
Blatant,
out
perhaps.
to remember accurately. And
Mm,
another person, the Frank Thorogood, one of the builders, was credited with diving in to try to save him.
mm.
And it wasn't the truth. That was just a misinformation,
A
trying to,
media rumor, maybe something like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So he's dead in the pool. It doesn't sit well with people. Some people suspect Frank Thorogood. In fact, some people say he confessed on his deathbed to killing Brian
well, that was
Jones,
Tom
right?
Keylock visited Thorogood in the hospital. Um, And allegedly, Thorogood made a confession that it was me that did Brian. But Thorogood's family cast strong doubt on this, said he didn't even know he was terminally ill when he was in the hospital. He passed away suddenly, and they just think he made it up because of there was an upcoming Crime Watch BBC documentary about the Brian Jones death and the mystery surrounding it, and they just thought he wanted to get some spotlight with that particular documentary that was coming out.
Yeah.
So he
You
revealed that.
discovered you discovered a medical cover-up in his official death
Well,
records. Tell us that.
I mean, this is on top of the police cover-up, but I mean, the police cover-up, there's still this day 60 plus pages that are uh, secreted away in the British National Archives. They won't let anyone look at it. um, for reasons unbeknownst to everyone. But the medical cover-up was it's really struck me by surprise that because I know professional medical people have looked into this case, but what um, was most surprising was he regularly took Mandrax and Valium, a couple of powerful barbiturates, and they never tested him for these two substances. And his psychiatrist, who'd been vacationing down in Palma de Mallorca, he was contacted when he died, and he provided all this information to the autopsy team, the autopsist and the toxicologist. But for some reason, he was never tested for these barbiturates in his blood, which really would have been perilous uh, with alcohol to
Right. It would have indicated his level of intoxication of whether or not
exactly. So
he would have been able
that
to
was
save
pretty
himself.
bizarre to see that, and
Yeah.
then to realize with admission 4 decades later, actually, that a dinner that he had had early that evening, a steak and kidney pie, that had been spiked with a probably with amphetamines, and because there was amphetamines discovered in a suit jacket of Frank Thorogood by the police when they searched the estate the next morning, and he had no real explanation for how why he was. hanging on to Brian's amphetamines because he had had an emergency prescription from his psychiatrist for some Dorfet. And
Yeah.
so these degraded when they were baked in a steak and kidney pie, and they had no effect, and they were never in his bloodstream. They were only found in his urine a large amount. So they used the allegation that a large amount of a drug had been found in his urine to insinuate that he had, been under the influence of drugs and alcohol at the time of his death and swimming in the pool under drugs and alcohol. I mean, this is a really a champion swimmer who could do acrobats in the pool, who was the captain of his high school team. And the swimming pool was not the place where he met his demise.
Yeah.
There was also another allegation about algae found in his lungs. Now, it's kind of hard to verify this claim because it's just where did it come from? I'm not sure. And the probability is it came from the histologist who did the cell cultures on Jones's body. But if it's true, I mean, if you found algae in the lungs, you wouldn't find that in a chlorinated swimming pool, but you get that in a natural body of water, such as a horse trough,
Yeah.
which there are two corroborating witnesses that say he was drowned in a horse trough,
Yeah.
not of his own doing. He was held down underwater and then dumped into the swimming pool.
Amazing. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this. 3 weeks before he died, when he was fired, there was an altercation with the Rolling Stones members. Do you think that fight had anything to do with his demise, with his death, or what looks like to you was his murder?
Well, it accelerated the just the termination, letting go process within the Stones organization. He was a real problem child in the last year he was with the band, and this just made it all the much worse. And there was a I think it's probably still a very touchy subject with Mick and Keith because they've never really revealed what went on when they went over there to Cotchford. I mean, you have to find out from other sources. Let me give you an example of Charlie when they were on tour 44 years later, world tour. That subject was brought up, and Charlie Watts was asked about if he remembered about that day they went over to like get rid of Brian, and he said, "No, I don't remember, but I do remember it wasn't very nice." So he's not really being forthcoming about what he knows about what went on. And finally, I found a reference to an old girlfriend named Zuzu who lived in Paris. And she met a art student at a class, and she told him about had Brian had called her after this had happened, and I know this will be embarrassing to the Rolling Stones, but Keith Richards pulled a knife on Brian when he informed them that it was actually his band and it was his name, it was on all the papers, and that they were the ones who were actually fired. And as the blood drained, as they're working themselves up to, officially terminate him with a separation financial agreement and stuff, he just pulls this 180 on them and just tells them they're the ones who are fired. He's going to start his own band anyways with a whole new lineup. And that's when Keith sort of lost his temper and he just pulled the knife that he normally carried in his hiking boots for protection. And he just, you kind of start chasing him around the house. And so this,
Amazing.
this has never come to light, and I think we're going to hear from the surviving Stones about this, some more facts about this, and I think it kind of accentuated the question of what are we going to do about Brian within the organization, because this guy.
Money was at stake, of course. You're talking
It was
about
huge money.
one of the most.
He was advised not to even talk about a new band or whatever, because he was thinking of starting a band with John Lennon, Jimi Hendrix. He was practicing with Steve Winwood, all these big names. He was
Probably ownership of even the name Rolling Stones
it's
was
worth
probably
millions
up for
upon
grabs.
millions, and so
Yeah,
it's just
amazing. Amazing. We got to stop you there, Richard. Let's save it for the book. Folks, this book is an amazing deep dive into one of rock and roll's darkest mysteries. It's written by Richard Gilbride. It explores the death of Brian Jones, which very well may have been murder. Richard, thank you so much for joining me here today.
well. Thank you very much, Logan. Been a pleasure.
I appreciate your time, your insight, and the wonderful, intensive work and investigation you've done on the death of Brian Jones. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time.